Welcome to Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church and our live stream worship service. I'm Reverend Pippin Whitaker. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm your minister. Accotink UU Church is a welcoming and inclusive community that seeks to create a more just and compassionate world through our actions to bring about justice and by honoring the web of nature of which we are a part. All are welcome here, no matter whom you love, no matter your identity or your heritage, no matter your beliefs or background, no matter your means or your gifts, you are welcome here in this religious community.
Greetings, I'm Sheila Doles, your worship associate for today. If you're new to Accotink and would like to talk more about this church, please be sure to reach out to me, our minister, Reverend Pippin, or a member of the board. Contact information is posted on our website at www.accotinkuu.org. On our website, you can check the online order of service in the worship section of our webpage. While you're on the website, be sure to check our events page for upcoming virtual gatherings and other news. I now invite you to close your other windows or apps and devices, take a deep breath, and center yourself for worship.
In worship today, we contemplate and save a space in our lives for what is most important. Today, we are centering on the care and feeding of community. Community, that resource that we draw on for nourishment, whether it is community with one other person or with many. Communities like Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church are here to fill us in times of need and in joy. How do we care for and feed community? One piece of that is presence. Let us bring our full presence to this worship today, to this important central idea. I invite you into worship, the care and feeding of community. Sheila will lead us in our chalice lighting, and I invite everyone to join in lighting a chalice if you have one at home.
We pause this morning from the chaos of the world to reclaim the beauty within community that carries us through our week.
Let us center ourselves with a breath, with a pause, for a time of prayer and meditation. There's so much for our hearts to hold right now. So much turmoil in our world. It is the magnitude and the particularity of it all. The magnitude of environmental crisis, racial oppression, the magnitude of unrest and uprising and pain, and the particularity of something specific. All those things. I'll share a word about Kenosha. He was walking away. His children sat in the car and watched. I cannot believe there was no other way. Now half his body is frozen, and his children's lives are frozen in fear. All this leading to the anniversary of the March on Washington, and there is so far left to march through this storm. God of compassion, of justice, let us turn a corner somehow, somewhere, and let healing begin. Even now when we can't see a corner to turn, let us let some healing breath in. May Jacob Blake know that we care. May his children know that there are people everywhere struggling, so this won't happen again, some way, somehow, so this won't happen to them. Let his sister's righteous anger see the light of justice done. A world where this madness of hate, callous greed, and injustice stops. Let us find our healing to keep going. Let us not give up or give in until this mighty march moves us all forward towards justice. All forward together. Amen. Amid this tumultuous time of pandemic, election, unrest, and uprising, let us also pray for this community. We need strength too. We need care. And as we have said in this worship service, we receive this from one another. It is a gift that this community is a caring community. And within this community, we have a pastoral care team, and it is part of that caring. In addition to your ministers, the members of the pastoral care team this year are Amy Tomasco, Ann Smith, Connie Diamant, who serves as chair, Dave Muirhead, and Mark Roman. Connie, I invite you now to share the pastoral care team's bold new mission.
Thank you. We, the members of the pastoral care team, commit to engage proactively with our fellow congregants in helping to provide care for one another. We do this with trust, empathy, confidentiality, and vulnerability. We embrace you as you are. We are here to be with you in joy and in grief, to navigate change, to grow, and to learn. We pursue this pastoral mission in collaboration with our ministers. When needed, we can help to connect you to support resources in the congregation and the wider community. We encourage the congregation to act in this ministry with us as a caring community.
Thank you, Connie. We are here for you. We are here for one another. And we are all invited into caring community and caring relationships.
Today's reading is The Fountain by Denise Leveritoff. Don't say there is no water to solace the dryness at our hearts. I have seen the fountain springing out of the rock wall and you drinking there. And I too, before your eyes, found footholds and climbed to drink the cool water. The woman of that place, shading her eyes, frowned as she watched, not because she grudged the water, only because she was waiting to see we drank our fill and were refreshed. Don't say there is no water. The fountain is there among its scalloped gray and green stones. It is still there and always there with its quiet song and strange power to spring in us, up and through the rock.
On Friday, I met our voice partners and two members of this congregation, Dottie Smith and Susie Porth, to talk about evictions and the looming eviction crisis. We were preparing to meet with Senator Marsden, who represents this congressional district and serves on the Virginia Senate Finance Committee. We called the meeting to educate Senator Marsden about the eviction crisis and solutions to prevent it. Looking at the numbers and the costs, I was struck by how easily and for so little cost to the public and even to landlords, we could avoid the suffering of 500,000 Virginians at risk of eviction. And that includes children. On the day school starts, an estimated 329,000 Virginia children in K through 12 education will have parents who don't know how they will pay rent. Many families will self-evict to avoid an eviction on their record. And the thousands facing eviction can benefit from Governor Northam's rent and mortgage relief program. But it takes weeks to get support, and not everyone can wait that long. This is a new program which takes time to get up and running. Our recommendation for the senator was for a 60-day stay of eviction to give time for the governor's new program to work and ultimately to save not only taxpayer dollars, but lives in our community. Lives of our community members in Burke and beyond. Something I wonder sometimes if we have forgotten on a collective level, forgotten how to care for. And on a collective level, I watch as we seemingly care more for some lives than others. Community is more than a shared geography, and it is more than a group or a sense of common values you share with that group. These are fine dictionary definitions of community, but the sort of community I think we long for is one that is responsive to one another's needs. I am not interested in a community of shared values that looks at the suffering of a community member and says, that's their problem, not mine. That is not a meaningful community to me. A true community, in the sense of the group of people who are part of something more than their composite selves, who cares, is a true community. And it doesn't let its members get kicked out on the street during a pandemic. Community doesn't send children to school in their cars. But there is another challenge in this eviction crisis, one that complicates the challenge to community we are facing. It is systemic racism. You see, about 74% of white people in Virginia own their homes, and only 49 and 44% of Latinx and Black people do. The reasons for this disproportionate ratio go back to housing and job discrimination, predatory lending, and even discriminatory criminal legal penalties like money bail. Our community has within it some troubling conflicts and past harms that have gone unaddressed. And because they have not been healed, today, amidst the pandemic, we see insult added to injury and deep wounds reopened and pain erupting into righteous anger. If we want to care for community, if we want to feed community so that it grows the ability for everyone in the community to care for everyone else, we have to turn towards tension and brokenness in our relationships. So we have to sit with that and invite healing. As unpleasant as that sounds, there is something powerful and beautiful that can emerge when we visit the broken places in our lives and seek healing. A healed relationship brings forth the spring, the nourishing water that flows forth from Denise Leveritoff's fountain. It was waiting for us all along. To show what I mean, I invite you to embrace the care and feeding of community through reflecting on a real life example. In this example, it's the smallest form of community, a relationship between two people, me and Reverend Alexa. Reverend Alexa is here to provide added nourishment and continuity on Sundays, while I am, as you know, working part-time. You may remember that together the board and I reflected and discerned and agreed to reduce my hours to 3/4 time during the pandemic. This allows the church to move forward into the next year on even stronger financial foundations, and it allows me to support my family through a demanding year. Yet, this opportunity would not be so rich and nourishing for this community without the work of relationship building that took place over the past few years between two colleagues. Reverend Alexa, won't you be so kind as to begin this story?
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Pippin. So here is our personal story. Reverend Pippin's and mine, but through my lens. She, of course, may tell the story differently, but here goes. Reverend Pippin and I got to know each other through the Chesapeake chapter of the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association. That is often called CUMA, and some people say CUMA. She said she remembers me from a previous retreat for seminarians back when she was at Meadville Lombard and I was at Star King School for the Ministry. Those are our two UU seminaries. There were lots of people to get to know, and that was a great weekend in Evanston, Illinois. Anyway, I feel like I started to get to know Reverend Pippin at CUMA. After a few months of being in the same small group breakout sessions after a workshop, or perhaps over a cup of tea at break, she invited me to participate with a small group of seminarians and brand new ministers in a program she called Listening by Heart. In this group of 5 women, we shared sacred poetry and helped one another interpret its meaning for us at the time. We also, more and more over time, got to know each other well as we supported each other in our final days of seminary and the start of our search for congregations. In fact, the reading that I gave earlier today was one that I shared in one of those Listening by Heart meetings. It felt on point for today's sermon about pastoral care and supporting each other in this community. Eventually, all of the other women peeled away with jobs out of town or whatever, and Reverend Pippin and I continued to support one another with one-on-one monthly meetings and the occasional call or email. Reverend Pippin and I have a lot in common. We both hold PhDs and had first careers that we loved and sort of hated to leave, and actually had to leave because the call to Unitarian Universalist ministry was just so strong. We shared a deep need to help heal the world with social justice work, support people with pastoral care, and to preach prophetically to our people. And thank you for that beautiful linking of today's issues and this sermon. Thank you, Reverend Pippin. All these things united us, and I'll say just for me, I really liked her. She had a cool water kind of energy that also could get heated up and pretty intense. And I'd like to think that those energy connections are also part of our growing relationship. I was so delighted when she asked me to speak at her ordination. That was an honor. Then, oops. A small oops happened between us. I thought she hadn't, she thought she had, she thought maybe I could have. Oh, the details are not in any way important to this day. Life was busy. Neither of us talked with the other about that ouch. We just kind of let ourselves drift. What was it, Reverend P? Christmas or something else led to a break in our regularly scheduled meetings. And again, we just drifted. I was kind of sad, a bit disappointed, and life is busy, so you move on, don't you? But then came a CUMA meeting and we started to talk. Because we had built up trust, because we both knew the other's good intentions, because we had been vulnerable all those times, on that day at CUMA, we started to talk. And first one of us broached that oops. Then after some back and forth, we got to the bottom of that oops. And then we shared the feelings below, around, after it. We explored some causes. There were tears. As you will come to know, I am a crier. And on that day and other days, that is okay. It was a vulnerable process for both of us. We built us some community. In that case, a community of two. Was our growing connection not despite the oops? But is it possible it was even because of the oops? And then after some more time, she started to wonder about asking me to come here as the pastoral care minister and to preach once a month for a year. She knows I've done lots of training in pastoral care and that I love connecting with people in that way. She knew I was working at another congregation only half time and that I was open to the possibility of living my call even more fully. She knew that I loved to preach. Reverend P was good with me, sharing an exchange of texts that happened after your board invited me into the role of pastoral care minister. In that thread of texts, we chatted about the way that we were embarking on this, for me, targeted and yet shared ministry. One of us said something like, "This seems to be working, doesn't it?" And then we had a bit of back and forth. Then Reverend Pippin said, "Yes, we are working well together and we'll have the wisdom and fortitude to work it out when things aren't so smooth." She said, "Something will come up at some point and it doesn't worry me because I believe we will explore it together and find even better solutions." Trust, vulnerability, and commitment to connection. That is what Reverend Pippin and I are living, and we are living that with you. I thank you for your trust in me, Reverend P. This is not the only experience where I've had, where an oops resolved, really worked through, actually helped build a relationship. I can think of friends or family members where I've let them down, and the very process of their tentatively at first mentioning their hurt feelings both helped me make amends and help that person know how what I'd done was truly a mistake. And oops. Want to take it away?
Thank you, Reverend Alexa. Thank you for that beautiful walk through our relationship. And I might tell it differently, but I like it that way. So we'll leave it as you told it. Trust, vulnerability, and commitment to connection. This commitment is vital to the care and feeding of community. When you find that commitment, that trust and vulnerability, you can lean on it. It's a commitment to not only being in relationship, not only enjoying common values and activities and fun times, but responding to needs and returning to the relationship when there's a point of tension or pain. Or to use Reverend Alexa's words, when there's been an oops or an ouch. To care and feed a community is to acknowledge that there will be tension and conflict. And it is having faith and commitment to continually grow and heal relationships that creates the source that we all need in community. When we do this as friends, as neighbors, as community members, we create new possibilities for growth, new strength, new resources. And this example in one relationship now provides a new resource for this entire church community. Reverend Alexa, I offer you a charge for this year with this congregation. And everyone in worship, while I share these words for Reverend Alexa, I invite you to place your hand on your device or towards your screen, facing palm up in support, to symbolize the caring power of this community that we invite Reverend Alexa to join in nurturing this year. Reverend Alexa, Will you accompany us 1 week a month while I'm in study period to participate in deeper pastoral conversations and support, and to help the pastoral care team grow and to flourish in this new and mysterious time with new needs and challenges arising, and to hold sacred space for us in worship and other gatherings to encourage deep relationship building and strengthening in this community this year? Will you accept this charge?
I will. Thank you.
Congregation, I invite you to join me in saying, we welcome you, Reverend Alexa, into this caring ministry at Accotink UU Church. I'm envisioning hearing everybody say that. Welcome. Welcome into this year with us, all together. When there is tension in a relationship, or boredom, or an oops, or a conflict, it is okay to take a break, to try to get some perspective and understand it. And when you need to calm down. But when you come back and specifically seek to heal the brokenness, not to ignore it as though it never happened. When you seek healing, when it can be healed, it is an opportunity for a powerful new possibility to emerge if you let it. I wonder about all the strong, long relationships in this congregation and how they can be shared as a resource for us all to draw upon this year and forward. And I wonder about all the long, strained relationships in this congregation too, that perhaps need a little attention to an oops that happened on this committee or that committee, or misplaced word or deed. I marvel at the possibilities that could emerge from relationships such as these, and what might come of it as they receive the care and feeding they deserve. Let us not turn away from the potential in this community either when online interaction becomes tiring or boring. Because when we come together, despite our grief that we cannot break bread in person, when we come together despite technical glitches, when we write a letter or make a phone call, when we're not used to that kind of interaction, we are caring for and feeding this community. And that, precisely that, is what creates a new possibility for a nourishing spring in our lives. Tending this community can be a source for each of us and for wider nourishment as well. Imagine if we were able to join neighbors tending our Virginia community, as those on Voice and throughout social justice as well know. If we fought to protect everyone in their homes and engaged in the work of healing the deep wounds of racism and classism and more, can you imagine the fountain springs? Envision with me a community where the people cared for get to be the people able to care for you. Healing brokenness in one relationship can lead to such a strong bond that it becomes a new resource for others, for those you love, for our future. That is the spring that flows in community that I believe is already flowing and waiting to spring forth so that you and I and everyone may drink our fill. And it begins here, right here in the heart of community, in each and every one of our relationships. May that be so. Amen. Though we extinguish our chalice flame, we carry within us what we kindled here, the light of inspiration, the warmth of compassion, the fire of commitment. May we bring these gifts into our lives and share them radiantly out in the world. Sheila, won't you lead us in our community blessing?
This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences and beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time, death, and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to that unity.
May the truth that sets us free and the love that casts out fear and the hope that never dies guide us, and those we love and those we do not love, and those forward together till the day spring breaks and the shadows flee away.
I remember you told me about this benediction. It's deep meaning for you, but it says about staying with people, staying through hard times, how it has spoken to you throughout your time studying and preparing for ministry, and now. It means a lot to me too. It means caring. Let us care for one another, even when it is not so easy, when we'd rather go do something else. When we are faced with boredom, let us come together to be there for one another. Our presence is nourishing. When we encounter an oops, let us find the courage to share what it felt like, to seek healing. When we encounter a conflict, let us each revisit that, find out what is there and what is possible. Let us go forth in our relationships together in faith and knowing that we are doing the work of caring and feeding and tending community. Together in faith, together into our future. May this community be one. Amen. Blessed be.